Thank you.
Look at that shirt. It's cute.
Whose instrument is this? Can I use it? Is it okay if I touch this? It's okay?
Very sexy.
Control yourself. This is a fine instrument. I don't know, it's not one of those Streptovirus violins, is it? I didn't think so, but it is a fine instrument. I know fine instruments like a tornado knows trailer parks. I can install it every time. I'm just going to play a couple of measures for you of an old hymn, kind of get us warmed up here. You may not know that I used to be the praise and worship pastor at Church of Christ. Just sing along with me if you want. Kumbaya, Kumbaya. Well, you don't have to sing. I was born in a small town. Some of you may have never heard of Eagle Lake. But I was proud to be born in a small town. It was halfway, just so you'll know where it was. It's halfway between Garwood and Allerton. We had one main street, ran right through the car wash. But we did have a hotel. We had a hotel. You had to stop at the Shell service station to pick up the key. But we were proud to have a hotel. When I was growing up, it wasn't like it is today. You know, we're all into cocooning today. We build tall fences between our houses so people can't see us and we won't have to talk to our neighbors. But when I was growing up, it was pretty much open prairie. We didn't have fences in Eagle Lake till I moved into the neighborhood, and our neighbors built electric fences around their house. I don't know why. I was a good kid, but for some reason they built electric fences around their house. I remember when we'd have rainstorms, they would throw aluminum ladders across the fence and invite me to come play in their yard. I don't know what that was all about. One of the most exciting things that I remember growing up in Eagle Lake was the city council one day decided they wanted to buy a traffic light. We hadn't needed one. We didn't have any traffic. We didn't even have an intersection. But Garwood had bought a traffic light, so Eagle Lake couldn't be outdone. So we bought a traffic light. The problem was where to install it. So we had a long town hall meeting. And they finally voted to install it in front of the restaurant. Yes, the restaurant. We had one restaurant in town. It was Oriental, Molina's. And if you wanted fast food, there was a Kentucky Fried Chicken. But my family was poor. We would go to KFC occasionally, but we never ordered for the menu. We would just lick other people's fingers. We live 60 miles. 60 miles. It's dangerous being up here. Do you want to come take a look? We live 60 miles west of Houston. And we went into Houston frequently. But back in those days, Houston was a dangerous city. Some of you may remember when it was known as the murder capital of the world. The streets in Houston were so dangerous that muggers traveled in pairs. You know those pedestrian signs at the crosswalks that say walk, don't walk? We have those here in Corpus. In Houston, they only had one sign. It said, run for your life. One day we were in a department store shopping. We couldn't have been there more than 5 or 10 minutes. 5, maybe 15 minutes. When we came back out, our car was gone. The only thing left was the windshield wipers. I stopped a passerby. Thought I'd ask a few questions, see if they'd seen anything. She mugged me. She did. She mugged me. Scared me half to death. Have you ever thought what would happen if you got scared half to death twice? Sometimes one had to be dead. Houstonians were not the brightest bulb in the pack. Sorry if any of you are from Houston, but they weren't. We were in a shopping store one day. We were in this department store when there was a power failure. The electricity was off for an hour. 20 people were trapped on the escalators. When I was growing up, I had a dog. Most boys do. I named my dog Stay. Stay ran around the neighborhood. When he'd wander off, I'd say, "Come, Stay. Come, Stay. Come, Stay." Stay became schizophrenic and chased himself out of town. I replaced him with Spot. Spot was a fun dog. I'd throw things and Spot would fetch it and come back. And unfortunately, one day my mother was using spot remover. I can't even talk about it. When I was a boy, we had fun dogs. They were companions. You know what I mean? Collies, St. Bernards, Golden Retrievers. We didn't have pit bulls. I didn't know what a pit bull was until I moved to Corpus Christi. I'd never heard of pit bulls. I don't know why anybody would want to own a pit bull. Now, some of you may own them. I'm just glad I don't live next door to you, that's all. But have you ever thought about I've just often wondered what would happen if you crossed a pit bull with a St. Bernard? Would you have a dog that would rip your leg off and then go for help? I grew up in a Baptist family. It should be no surprise to you. We were all Baptists. Well, actually, I had a cousin that strayed. She became a Jehovah's Witness. She married an atheist. They had kids that went around knocking on doors, but they didn't know why. Sometimes these mixed religious marriages can be confusing. Can be stressful. I had a friend whose mother was Catholic. His father was Jewish. He still went to confession, but he took his attorney with him. I know some of you wonder about my abnormal behavior. I think that it probably goes back to my abnormal childhood. I don't remember this, but I've been told that when I was born, I was so ugly that the doctor slapped my mother. And I hear that my parents would not leave the hospital until the nurse brought a paper bag to put over my head. Yeah, go figure. My parents' idea of birth control was to put my picture on the bedside table. I don't know what that means either. I was so blessed to get away from home and come to Corpus Christi and met the love of my life. Actually, Linda was the first serious love that I had. You're thinking Linda's the one that was blessed, and that's true, of course, but I was blessed also to have met Linda. I nearly made a big mistake. I almost married a psychic, but she left me before we met. Some of you may have seen those late night infomercials, Psychic Friend Hotline. Have you ever seen the Psychic Friends Hotline? You know what? They're not your friends. If they were your friends, you could call them collect. And they're not psychic either. If they were psychic, they'd call you.
That's right.
I read in the newspaper once about a short psychic who broke out of jail. The headlines said small, medium, and large. I'll give you a minute.